Hello, everyone. Hi.
Hello.
Welcome back, everybody, to Tuesdays with Audra, a live stream show where we sit and have a chat with individuals and business owners to get an unfiltered look at what they're doing on the day-to-day to move their businesses or passions forward. As always, I'm your host, Audra Fournier. I'm a master life and business coach, business owner, local here in Tallahassee, and publisher. And I'm just generally curious, which is why we started the show. I wanted to first thank Chrissy Souders. Thank you so much for always being with us. She is in the back scenes being our publisher. Thank you, Chrissy. She will facilitate all the things for us today. So if you guys have any questions about live stream shows, she's your lady. But I'm really excited about our guest today, Doug Martin. This is show number 17. Doug Martin is with us, and I'm really excited because he's just doing all kinds of great things in the community. He's the president of the Communities and Schools of Florida. He's also president of Gray Fox Strategies, and he is going to talk to us today. Hi, Doug.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going really great. So, Doug, can you give us a little bit of background on you and kind of what you do out in the community?
Well, my mission in life is to enact good policy for great organizations. And I have always been involved in public policy, and I started out as a newspaper reporter and covered politics and prisons, and was an investigative reporter and got very involved with the Florida legislature. And then I switched over to being an advocate. And so then I represented organizations before the Florida legislature and before other, governmental bodies.
That's really interesting. And I can imagine after being an investigative reporter, how it ends up pulling at your heartstrings, and you find that, you want to do good out in the community.
Well, do you want to be on the sidelines, or do you want to get in the middle of it and try and make good things happen?
So first, I want to go into Communities in Schools Florida. Can you give us a little bit of background on what that organization is and why you really got involved?
Well, Communities in Schools is the nation's largest and most successful dropout prevention program, and has been a leader in the school reform movement and the community school movement. And it started with the idea. It started with the idea that it started
Sorry
with the
about
idea.
that. We keep doing this. So it started with the idea of
that students can only be successful if their human needs are taken care of. You can have the best teacher, the best principal and curriculum, but if that child is hungry, if they're coming to school in stinky clothes, if they've got some mental health issues, or if maybe they're sleeping in a car, they're not going to be able to focus on school and be successful. And so what Communities in Schools does is they bring the community into the school. We have personnel who work in the school, and they assess the needs of students that are referred into their program, usually because they're not attending school regularly. And so then we work with those families to find out what's going on in the life of that student that's causing them to miss school, causing them to have disciplinary problems, causing them to not meet their academic standards. And we find if we can deal with the out-of-school issues that students dealing with, more than 90% of them will stay in school and be successful.
what a powerful organization to be part of. I know that, especially right now with what's going on in our environment, there's so much uncertainty when it comes to, what's next and how to take care of the students that are having those challenges while having the challenges that are happening in our environment. So how has that really impacted, your purpose and passion within communities and schools, and what you guys are needing to do within the community to reach those students and help them out?
Well, because of the virus, that means that services have to be provided at a distance. And schools are very, very important to children that are in poverty because that's a primary place where they get food. And so having backpack programs, having food pickup and drop-off programs, and also school is where they can get access to health care and other kinds of services. And then also, they may not be able to access the virtual learning or the tutoring or other things that they did. And for students with disabilities, that is even more significant because that's where they are getting their primary academics and therapy from.
Yeah.
So, the state is reopening schools. Here in Leon County, they are providing laptops to students that do not have them. They have been doing mobile internet router sites into neighborhoods that do not have sufficient access to broadband internet. And so the community is trying to address those needs during this crisis.
It's almost overwhelming to understand the level of services that communities and schools, even just in Leon County, that those students need. That seems like a massive undertaking.
Well,
do you have a great team? I mean,
communities and schools does not do everything themselves. What we do is we find organizations such as Second Harvest of the Big Bend and medical, dental, other providers who then do it. What we are is we refer the students, we find their needs, and then we find the community resources to meet those needs of the student.
That's great. Working with your affiliates and partners and other service providers out in the community to be able to almost act like a hub for the needs of the students.
Yes, that is the point. Also, we have refined our model over decades so that it is an evidence-based intervention. Mm-hmm. And then we are closely tracking and adjusting those different interventions in a child's school so that it's having the improvement in attendance, behavior, and academic progress.
You mentioned a moment ago school reform. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, over the years, here in Florida, we were one of the, under Governor Jeb Bush, we were one of the first states to really have an aggressive testing plan. Mm-hmm. And that testing plan, which has come under, a lot of criticism because a lot of people don't understand the implications of it, but identified schools where students were not at the state standards for their grade mm-hmm. level in reading and math and other areas, but particularly reading. And it labeled those schools as F or D, and then with financial penalties and others to force school districts to put more resources into those schools. There's debate and criticism about whether the state provided sufficient resources, but that's how it began. Then in the No Child Left Behind Act at the federal level, they, required testing and had some penalties for districts and states that did not meet those standards. But all of that was diagnosis. Then from there, the educational reform movement came more to where we've been for decades, which is it's not enough just to diagnose a student. You have to, help resolve the things in that child's life that's preventing them from being successful, because those standardized tests also are primarily a diagnosis of your family's income level. Mm-hmm. Students that are living in poverty, that maybe food insecure, they do not do as well in school. However, if you can take care of those issues, then they do just as well as other students. And so
it's okay. It's not enough just to identify the problem, and we need to put strategies in place in an effort to help correct them.
Exactly, because here in Leon County, we have an excellent school system. We have great teachers and principals, but they are there today. So an effort has to be made to resolve the human, the social, and other kinds of challenges that these students are having.
Yeah.
And it really, when students don't succeed, when they drop out, it is an utter disaster. There was a study by Columbia Teachers College a few years ago that the economic impact over the life of a dropout student on the economy of Florida was between $180,000 and $320,000 per dropout.
Wow.
If they drop out of school, they don't form businesses at the same level. They don't buy houses at the same level. They may need public assistance, and they may become incarcerated. All of those are very, very expensive. So each student is precious. Also, they're more likely to get involved in crime. Right. And here in Tallahassee, where we have a wonderful, wonderful community that we love, the most educated community in the state of Florida, because we have 2 universities, we have the state government, but we also have a year in, year out, decade in, decade out, 20% poverty rate among children.
Yeah. It's incredible to realize not only how much it impacts, people as a human, as an individual, but how much it impacts the success of everybody else, right? Because if they stay in school and they start businesses, then they hire people, and that's a trickle down effect to the rest of the community. So it's really in everyone's best interest to help these students stay in school and get the support and services that they need.
Also, Tallahassee has one of the highest incidents of crime in America, and is concentrated in areas of high poverty. Also, we have the poorest zip code according in Florida, 32304. And so as a community, the academic community, the governmental community in Leon County has said, how do we address these ingrained societal inequities that are, causing crime, causing, academic problems? And so under the leadership of Tallahassee Mayor John Daley, then also the county commission, the school board, human service organizations such as the United Way, others, they have come together to put forth to voters this November a Children's Service Council, which would be a governmental entity which would focus on services for children. Because in order to stop the cycle of poverty, the cure for that is education. but that those education goals cannot be achieved without early learning. So kids, when they're 3 and 4 years old, getting them into high quality early learning programs, after school programs, so that kids that are living in a rough neighborhood, that they can go to an academically enriching after school program rather than hanging around, on the streets and maybe getting into trouble.
Yeah.
But then also like access to mental health care, access to other kinds of these services so that, that their needs are met. And when they're in school, they can focus on learning.
Yes. And that's such an interesting concept because patterns develop right from generation to generation. It's very difficult to break that cycle. And only through really great support and education do we really have an opportunity for the next generation to change. Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you just first to a couple of people that are online, Ashley Guy and Margaret Rose. Thank you guys so much for watching. Give us some questions for Doug. He is incredibly intelligent and giving us so much information. Tell me a little bit about the Children's Service Council. How's that formed, or the proposed Children's Service Council? How's that formed? How many, where do you draw individuals to participate in that sort of thing?
So Children's Service Council, their formation is governed under Florida statutes, Florida law, and they've been around for a long time. So I think the earliest was formed in St. Petersburg or Pinellas County in 1945. And there are Children's Service Councils in Miami, Palm Beach, Jacksonville, many, many places. And they are appointed they're put on the ballot. Voters have to vote for them. The majority of the voters have to vote for them. There's going to be a vote on one for Leon County this November during the general election. But they are appointed by the county commission and by the governor.
Okay.
And so they're, local people in the community. And then they assess the needs of the community, the gaps in services, or maybe where the services are insufficient, such as early learning. Here on Leon County, we have very few pre-K programs, childcare programs that are at the gold level of certification, gold seal programs. Mm-hmm. So improving the quality of those. And so then their meetings will be public. And so the public can have input into those, and then they'll be working with, the county, the city, the school board, and other entities. But the important thing is that they are an agency focused on child welfare and on services to children and making sure that those community needs are met so that we can break that cycle of poverty and over the years reduce that poverty level and reduce that crime level, improve the quality of life in our community.
For anybody watching, I know that, or I can understand that the program as a whole is probably a bit overwhelmed at the moment and probably in need of services, volunteers, new partners. How can our community get involved in the communities in schools to help out if anybody's interested?
Well, one of the primary partners is the Big Bend Second Harvest. And so, providing food, and then also becoming a Leon County school volunteer. You have to go through a background check, as does everybody who steps foot on campus. Right. And the difficult part is that I don't think that they're having volunteers this year. This is such a terrible and unusual situation that they're not letting non-staff onto campus. And so the best way that you can contribute is by supporting your local organizations that are addressing those needs.
Yes, I agree. Ashley Guy comments, education and good nutrition and after-school clubs and sports is key. Providing that support system.
Does, and in my personal life, I'm the leader, Cub Master of the Cub Scout Pack, which is all about building character, building resilience, and great values and in community service. So instilling that into our young people so that they can become the great leaders of tomorrow.
I can see how your passion runs through all of these things. It's really great.
I've always seen helping the next generation as being, part of what every adult should do.
Yeah.
Because, they are, the future. And if they are not successful, then it is a disaster.
I agree. And so you reach down into the community through your passion projects with the Boy Scouts, and then you reach up into government relationships. So talk to us a little bit about 𝐏𝐸 and building relationships with governments, because I think that there's a lot of myth and misunderstanding when it comes to individuals that build those government relationships.
So I am a registered lobbyist, and I'm a member of the Florida Professional Lobbyists Organization and a certified lobbyist. So what is a lobbyist? A lobbyist is a person who is paid to try to enact some kind of change in law or change in budget, or oppose a change in law or a change in budget. In my case, I have represented overwhelmingly nonprofit organizations. So while there are, the lobbyists you usually hear about that are representing casinos and tobacco and, polluters and things like that, there are also, the vast majority of lobbyists are representing companies that organizations that and they're providing expertise to policymakers, either by providing it themselves or by connecting those policymakers with experts in the field. And so in terms of communities and schools, what we do is we bring professionals from the communities where these legislators are, Jacksonville, Palm Beach, Miami, and other places, so that those lawmakers can hear the experiences in their community when they're crafting these laws. Also, we can help them to avoid problems by saying this is a good idea, but if it were done in a different way, then it would be more successful. Because as a small nonprofit, if the law is not drafted correctly, then it can prevent organizations like ours from being able to participate fully. And then also at the local level, at the school board level, and other levels. And I've been doing that for several decades.
I think that lobbyists are, especially in sectors like you do, are very important to the community relationship with their policymakers, because as a policymaker, your expertise may not be, how to provide support to impoverished communities or how to enact reform for the way schools function. And I think that your role is to really educate them on what's going on in those communities. And I think that that's really important, which is often not really recognized when somebody says that they're a lobbyist. You're really an educator for that policymaker, right?
Yes, and then the other part of it is I help organizations to to advocate successfully, because a lot of people have this they think that government is arguing like they see on cable television. And that is the complete opposite. That when you go and you're presenting to an elected leader or staff, then you do so politely. You have your facts together, and often, really all of the time, they treat you with respect. Those elected leaders want to see you. They want to hear your story. But also, you have to be working on issues that they can actually do something about. Like the state legislature, they can't do anything about foreign policy. That's the federal government. Also, they can't fix your potholes. That's your local city. So helping to understand and refine what the issue is, and then what is the level of government that is best to address that issue. And so do a lot of work with organizations on that. And, if you do all of those things, then you can be successful and you can achieve positive change. Unfortunately, that message is really drowned out. It's so much negativity and other kinds of things which are really irrelevant to that, because most issues are not partisan. Most issues, if it's a Republican or it's a Democrat, they want to hear from organizations and people in their community, and they want to help. And all of them, they sought election because they want to help. They may have different ideas or different views, but, all of us are working to, achieve a better society.
Make the world a little bit of a better place.
Yeah.
What would you say are the favorite things that you do in your day to day? I know that's kind of an odd question, but I think it showcases where your passion is.
Well, most of things are done at home these days, have been, but, scouting, the outdoors, being out in our beautiful area. I mean, Tallahassee is in just a gorgeous area of Florida. And then, cooking, being with my family and my son. I mean, this has been a difficult time, but, it has brought us even closer together. But then also music. I played for many years, and Irish band, other bands, and then theater. The Tallahassee Film Society, we have one of the largest film societies here in Tallahassee, and they show art films, documentaries, foreign films that you're not going to see in the multiplex. And I hope we are soon able to all go back to the movies, because while it's fun, to watch things at the house, it's even more fun to watch on the big screen, state-of-the-art sound system in a historic building. The Tallahassee Film Society is at the old Tallahassee Railroad Station, 175-year-old beautiful brick building.
I agree. It is. It's lovely. And I haven't been able to catch a film there lately. Just a couple of other questions. So if somebody wanted to get involved in lobbying, or I know that you did say with communities in schools to look to other partners in the community. But if somebody wants to learn more or get more involved in either one of those things, what would you say would be a great direction for them to head?
Well, if they're a young person, then I would say get involved with, your local political organization, get involved with candidates, and get to know candidates. And all of us, in a democracy, we should get to know candidates and know who they are and, what they would like to do. But then, all of us are involved in different professions. So get involved in organizations that you like. They could be a professional organization or swear. And then each of those organizations are going to have public policy advocacy. And so learning your issues, coming up to the Capitol or maybe your local city or county commission and getting involved like that. And then many who are involved in lobbying worked in government and worked for legislators or worked on the staff and became experts in the process. Mm-hmm. Because at the state, it is a very, very complicated process that really takes years. I mean, I had been involved in the process for 10 years before I became a legislative director.
It's definitely something that you have to work towards, and it's a perfect time of year to help someone out on a campaign or get involved and learn about the different issues that people are advocating for. Is there anything that we're leaving out that you wanted to mention?
Well, just on a final note of what we were just discussing, in democracy, the government is our responsibility. And so it is our responsibility to not just complain on social media, but to get involved and make the change that we want. And then, education is the future of our society. And so getting involved in schools, getting involved in, those issues, even if you do not have a child, you can be a mentor, Big Brothers and Big Sisters, other organizations like that, and make that part of your service is to, help those who need and try and bring along some young people so that they can see, how, you were successful, what your values are. And I think you'll learn something too.
I agree. First, I just wanted to say thank you for all that you do and all that you give back to our community and in so many different ways, and lending your experience and your time to helping students and to help our community progress and change. And I also wanted to thank you so much for being on our show today.
Well, thank you, Audra. And it's been a pleasure. And, this is a great virtual format to do this. And I look forward to seeing the rest of your shows.
Thank you so much. If you guys want to follow Doug, you'll see his Boy Scout escapades on Facebook. I love how active you are in that. And certainly reach out and learn more about communities and schools and see how you can engage with the other service providers in our community that are helping communities and schools provide those much needed services to our students and kids around Leon County. Thank you, Ashley. Great guest. Yay. Doug was an amazing guest. Thank you, Chrissy, very much for helping us in the background and bringing up all of the websites so that our viewers could see what was going on. But that's our show for today. Thank you so much for watching us. Tuesdays with Audra. Follow us for next week's show, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.